Welcome back to the YouTube channel. That's what the YouTubers say, right? Welcome to my car, actually. Apologies for that. It's just been a bit mental at the moment, and the only time I've had to actually do this is sat in the car. Also, I have just had my haircut and beard trimmed because I'm filming this the day before the F1 75 launch at the O2. So if you see any little strands of hair, that is why. Anyway, let's begin. Now, I'm going to endeavour to answer as many questions as possible, but answering them all is simply impossible. And also, a lot of people doubled up. So we're going to start with CB7 Scotland, who asked, how did you get to the position you are today as a lead F1 commentator? Good question. I'll start by saying it didn't just happen overnight. It was a fairly quick promotion. I started off in 2021. I think it was COVID still. And I sent a demo. So that is basically an amalgamation of some commentary to Formula One management, FOM, who run things like F1 TV, Formula 2, Formula 3, Porsche Super Cup. And I had never done that much commentary before. I didn't have a commentary demo. So I'd heard they were looking potentially for a new commentator for some of the support categories. And I just thought, that's got to be my way in. I found an email address, and I found some old F2 Porsche races on YouTube, ripped them off and just did a fake commentary over them. Sent about a 6-minute video to FOM, and then maybe like 8 months later, I got asked to do Porsche Super Cup. And from there, I got to do Formula 3. I did like one F2 race. And then because you're in the support category network, the opportunity then came to do BBC Radio 5 Live Formula 1 to stand in for 3 races for the 2022 season because the other commentator was also doing Formula E. So he would prioritize that, and then I would cover. And that's how it started. They initially had 3 races, the BBC, they wanted to offer me, and they tentatively were like, well, let's see how you do with Australia. So Australia 2022 was my first F1 commentary, and then I got asked to do, I think it was Miami, and then one later on in the year, which I've completely forgot. Oh, Silverstone. And then that same year, F1 TV had a bit of a revolving door of commentators, and they asked me later on in the year, could I do the Japanese Grand Prix for them? So that, in a nutshell, is essentially how I became a lead F1 commentator. Next question, Norris Speedster 4. What tips would you give someone like me who wants to be an F1 commentator? I love your content. Thank you very much, Norris. It's really hard, I'll be honest with you. Broadcasting in general is quite a difficult career. You're a freelancer, you're jobbing, you're knocking on so many doors, but that's crucial. I started this journey, I think, when I was maybe 16 years old, and I started by writing a little blog when I was at school. That developed to when I went to drama school because I wanted to be an actor. Then I realized, oh no, I kind of do want the university experience. And also when you're at university, if you're at that age, look, a degree is not gonna mean you're a success at this kind of job. It means nothing. However, what university does give you is life experience, but also it gives you the opportunity to join the student radio, the student TV, to get involved in the local town's media-related activities. Your university, mine didn't. If you do go to university, it might have a Formula student event that you might even be able to get involved with. And if you want to be a commentator, get involved with that. So university was a really important factor for me because it allowed me to just practice general broadcasting on radio. The other crucial point is to put yourself in as many different places as possible. So whilst I went hard on the motorsport and Formula One, I didn't, to begin with, put all my eggs in that basket. I was doing entertainment. I was still doing the drama, the acting thing. I was just making sure, and even within motorsport, I was doing DTM, Formula E, WEC, F1, GP2. I was just putting myself in as many different places as possible. So that one day, if an opportunity came up in any of those schemes, I would be at the forefront of whoever was in charge of their mind. So put yourself in as many different places. And these days, you've got to make your own content. You kind of have to. Even I feel the need to still be doing content. That's sort of where this idea for the YouTube channel came about. So you have to do a lot of self-promotion, and you've just got to put yourself out there, whether that's TikTok, your own podcast, that's YouTube. Even if you do a podcast and you think 4 people are listening. It doesn't matter because A, it's good for you. B, out of those 4 people, one of them could be a producer somewhere and like what you're saying, like your voice, like how you look, whatever. All it takes is one person. So produce your own content and put yourself in as many different places as possible and ask for advice. And just email people. That's how I did. I didn't have any contacts. I introduced myself by email to a lot of people and just generally asked them for some advice and maybe if I could come along and shadow. I never asked any other commentators that because they can't do that. You've got to go to the producers. So I get a lot of people asking me, can I do this? Can I do that? I can't do that. I'm not, I'm not allowed. You have to go through HR and all this kind of stuff these days. So you've got to do that through a production person. They are the key to this industry. Next one from Mike W4282. Do you always commentate from the track? And if so, does your commentary box always have a view of the track? So, spoiler alert, no, not always commentating at the track. In a post-COVID world of sustainability and cost saving, we do the majority of races of the year from London. So out of 24 races, we'll do 7 of them on site. When I do Sky Sports, they're all on site. But even the production team there, a lot of them have been made remote now because it's A, doable. There's hardly any difference. It saves a lot of money and it massively reduces your carbon footprint. When we are at track, sometimes the commentary box isn't that great. I've already spoken about how Imola wasn't great, but the view was really good. There are some which don't have the best of views. Austin was a decent view of the final corner. Japan was awesome. Suzuka, you're up high at the top of the main grandstand, which overlooks the main straight, but such is the layout of Suzuka, it's a figure of 8, right? You could see pretty much the entire circuit, and there's also in kind of the middle of the track, there's what looks like an old amphitheater kind of style seating, and I'm just trying to think of a bad one. Austria was okay, didn't really see much out the window though, even though we're on the main straight. Monaco is good, you're just after the swimming pool chicane, but a lot of these commentary boxes are just tiny in general, and I'm a big person, so that can be tricky, but more often than not, you get a pretty decent view, but they can be an absolute schlep to get to from the main paddock, but such is life. Okay, next question. Thomas James, 2009. What got you into Formula One, I presume, and when did you find your love for F1? 2 very good questions. Well, when I found my love for Formula One, it's probably around the age of 12. I was not a sporty person, as you might have already worked out. I was the drama kid, and I was not interested in sport in the slightest, and then particularly football. And then one day, I think my brothers had watched the Arsenal game, and then automatically after, it was the F1. I think it was the Chinese Grand Prix, I want to say 2011 maybe, Chinese Grand Prix. And I just became entranced with it. I just loved it. But not only for, I can't remember, there was not really a battle going on for the lead, but there was a great battle between like Adrian Sutil and the Force India and someone else in the midfield. And I just became hooked on not only the battle, but these stories of the underdogs and the midfielders and how much fighting for 9th place meant for them. And I from there, I fell in love with it, and I was like, I've got to get involved. And I just felt compelled to get involved. I wanted to write about it initially. I was blogging at school, and that's where my love kind of came from, really. L740, good question here. Where did you come up with your signature opening? It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor. Well, if you ask Rosanna Tennant, she thinks I stole It's All Eyes to the Lights from her. And to be fair, she probably got a point. I think she said It's Eyes to the Lights during her year as commentator, and I probably subconsciously absorbed that. But foot to the floor, I'm pretty sure is all me. Now, look, I'm not allowed to say the other one, the one you all know. That's why I've come up with a line, because A, I wanted my own little thing. B, it's just nice to have something that you're building up to. You know you've got to hit that point in every single race because it's live sport. I really don't know what's going to happen. So it buys me time at the beginning of a race to have that there. How I came up with it, in my opinion, I feel like I came up with it with my mate Charlie. And I feel like we were on a dog walk or something, or at the pub. And I was just trying to find a line, particularly that would appeal to a radio audience. So something that was quite visually descriptive and accurate in a way, because, well, I'm sure the drivers do have their eyes on the lights at the start of the race. Now, foot to the floor. Okay, I am aware the physics that is not accurate. They're not just putting their foot to the floor and going. They're, you know, releasing the clutch, steadily applying the throttle up through the gears. Yeah. However, that don't sound as good. So it's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor. Can be clunky, probably a bit too long, but if you say it in the right intonation and tone, I think it's pretty decent. Right, next question. McLaren Grace. If you didn't commentate for Formula One, would you still be on the F1 scene in another way? You know what? I'm generally not sure. I love Formula One, and maybe I would have been a journalist and like a written journalist or something like that, but that's a really demanding job as well. Maybe a producer in some sort of production element, or generally being some sort of content creator who, you know, like maybe like one of my mates, like Tomo F1 or whatever, people like that. Maybe I would have gone down that route and gone more heavily into YouTube from, you know, about 6 years ago or something. But I always loved the traditional broadcast route, and I love the fact that I am doing that, and opportunities in that path are less and less these days. I started off behind the camera, behind the mic, in the production element. I was the runner, the work experience kid, and I managed to find the opportunity and flip myself around to the other side. And that's how it used to kind of be done. I don't think that's there so much anymore. Equally, you get typecast very quickly if you're in production. So I was going down that production route, and I realized, A, I didn't want to do that. B, I wasn't good at it. So I need to almost stop doing the production stuff so people don't see me as that anymore. So something to bear in mind if you're also in a similar position, if you're 18, 19, 20, 21. Hardest name to pronounce on commentary. Well, it won't be any, there's no one in F1 really. I think it was a Porsche Super Cup driver. Having just had a scan of who the 2021 Porsche Super Cup lineup was, yeah, it's definitely, I can't name one. There are so many names I just wasn't familiar with at the time. A lot of them were also Dutch, which obviously has a correct pronunciation. So there was like Dan van Kuik, but when I first started, I was saying like Kuik. You had like Alessandro Giardelli. Oh, Simone Iaquinta. Simone Iaquinta? I think it was Iaquinta. And try saying Loic Hartog really quickly if he's overtaking somebody. That one was tricky. So yeah, there are a few in there. Jukka Honkavori, who could forget the Finnish legend. Michael Fassbender, he was also part of the team. So yeah, mainly the Super Cup drivers, because obviously they're a little less mainstream, a little less well known. Dark Force 2543, what made you want to start a YouTube channel? I think I kind of answered that. I don't have any ownership over anything I do at the moment. And from a long-term career perspective, it'd be quite nice to do that. Because at the moment, I'm employed by people who choose to employ me. One day they might not. So I felt like, if I have a YouTube channel, I can just be me and do what I want to do on that. Because a lot of commentators, I think, are hidden away in a box and you don't really get to know them. And I would like to showcase that I can do lots of things. And generally, I'm just a fan of Formula One at the end of the day, and it's quite nice to have a little platform to share that with. Also, it means if I do somehow build up maybe a decent following on this channel, that makes me an asset to my, well, existing employers, but also anybody else who might want to employ me, not only for my skill and talent behind a mic and in front of a camera, but also if I'm able to bring a following in this day and age, that helps. Just look at GK Barry. Okay, so Sam Artingstall, 4205. What has been your favourite race to commentate? Favourite race to commentate? I mean, you know what? Baku last year was incredible. Just when you thought the race was going to be stale, boom, it came alive. And at one point, I think it was Piastri going for the dive on Leclerc, and Karun and I in the commentary box are literally jumping up and down on our feet with elation and how amazing this race is, because there's just so much going on. Baku was really good. Sao Paulo last year was amazing. I mean, obviously minus the long waiting periods and the absolute filler commentary we're doing. The actual race and the two Alpines and Verstappen carving through, and Tsunoda was up there. You know, it was chaotic race, and those are really quite exciting. So those are more in my recent memory of what good races. I honestly don't know how long I've been talking for. I hope this is still interesting. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Andreas Larsden, Ledet 4659. Who is your favourite driver that you met in the paddock / interviewed? I mean, they're all fairly decent. You know what? I actually quite like Lance Stroll. Give him all the flack you want. He was one of the only drivers who came up to me after I did my first Sky F1 commentary and actually like congratulated me and said, well done. So that was really lovely of him. Didn't have to do that. Ollie Behrman's a really nice kid. A lot of the young kids are just so nice and polite. K-Mag's funny. Hulkenberg, I love them as a duo. I did a long interview with them once and it was just a breeze. I really enjoyed them as a duo. They were two cool kids. So yeah, probably say K-Mag and Hulk were together. Completely different personalities. Hulkenberg way more sort of outgoing, Magnussen way more internal, but with a really dry sense of humour, and Hulkenberg had the same. So yeah, I'm gonna miss them as a bit of a driver pairing. Okay, one more from Dan Collins, 43. How do you deal with people giving you information in your ear whilst you commentate? Do you find it distracting or can you block it out when necessary? It's a massive skill. It goes back to that earlier question of what's going on in the comments box. You're plugged in, you've got your headset on, and as well as obviously hearing my co-commentator through the headset and the audio output, I've got a director and a producer in my ear who are giving me information, who are telling me not only things like timing countdowns, 10 seconds to an ad break, they're also saying Zhou Guan Yu replay coming in 3 seconds or whatever it might be, or they'll try and aid with things. If we haven't spotted a car correctly or if someone's crashed and we're still trying to work out who it is because there's 4 cars all out of position, they will be able to help us with that. Not always, but sometimes. So try talking like this with your mate constantly chatting to you in your ear. That's pretty much what it is. It's not constant, but you've got to be able to hear what they're saying because it could be really crucial information technically. But then if you're mid-conversation about something else, you've got to try and finish your thought while thinking about what you need to do from what you're being directed. And equally, hearing what your co-commentator is talking about as well. It's a really tricky skill that I think a lot of people underestimate. And I personally love it because that's one of the challenges. It's part of the reason I love doing this job. Not only do I love Formula One, I love broadcasting in general. And this is like traditional broadcast. This is the bread and butter that I grew up watching and that I wanted to do. So stuff like that, I love. And that's all my questions. Well, not all of them, but I hope that answers most of the pressing questions. Thank you so much for sending them all in. I was quite overwhelmed actually by the response to the first video, so I really appreciate it. Any questions, keep them coming as well, and maybe I'll do another video later down the line. I'll try and get my next video out in March and probably maybe do one a month for now because it's just so difficult finding the time to do it. I'm envious of full-time YouTubers, but now I understand why they are full-time. So I'll be taking you behind the scenes to Australia. I'm going there in less than a month now, isn't it? So I'll be in Australia. I would have done the F175 launch. So there's so much stuff that I want to bring you along to. Tell your friends, tell your mum, get her to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.